right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back with episode 7 of our Holidays 2020 reviews, where we look at a bunch of stuff that takes place around Christmas time. And we were going to do a live review for Emmett, Otter's Jug Band Christmas and South Park's Christmas in Canada on Sunday. But then I did a little slip down the stairs and couldn't barely sit up. I've been to the chiropractor, though, since, and I'm feeling a little bit better. So we moved Emmett Otter and that all to fit into this video. So we're covering a lot of stuff here today. I want to thank everybody that watched in the viewing party, where we watched Jack Frost from 1997. A year before they released the Michael Keaton one, which I have not seen because the thought of Michael Keaton in a family movie about where he turns into a snowman just broke my heart. It broke my heart back then because, Michael Keaton was Batman. And I don't know. But it did have Kelly Preston in it. Maybe I should see it one of these days. Maybe next year. This year we're going to cover Jack Frost 97. Next year we'll maybe cover Jack Frost 98. Maybe I'll like it. Maybe Michael Keaton's very presence will elevate the material for me. But today we're talking about Jack Frost, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, one of my absolute favorite episodes of South Park of all time, Woodland Critter Christmas. And then we've got first thing we're going to be talking about is Christmas in Canada from season 7 of South Park. So if you're liking what's on the channel, please don't forget to hit the like button here, hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber, all that jazz. I want to thank everybody who's been watching these. These are just fun things to do because, come on, 2020 sucks still. It still sucks. Every day something happens. But first up, we're talking about season 7's episode of Holiday Special of South Park from season 7 called Christmas in Canada, where we get to see the boys go on kind of a Wizard of Oz-esque journey through Canada to try to get Ike back from Canada because Ike's real parents show up, and because there's this new prime minister up there, basically just creating all kinds of chaos. All Canadian citizens that are like outside of Canada, that are adopted, have to go home. And so Ike is forced to leave his family, and the boys go up there to try to stop, find them and get Canada back. And it's just this funny look at Canada and Christmas, and it's got Saddam Hussein right before he was executed. I think it was before he was executed. I don't know. Where they found him in his spider hole in Canada. It's really funny. There's some really funny stuff in here. A lot of Canadian stuff, the flapping heads, and surprisingly very little Terrence and Phillip, which, to be honest with you, even when the show was brand new and Terrence and Phillip were kind of funny, and they do have shut your fucking face Uncle Fucker song, and sometimes it'll hit you and you'll find it funny, but for the most part I always thought Terrence and Phillip were just really not that funny, and not because they're Canadian or farts. It's just it's just stupid. It's shit you do like when you're a kid. And I'm glad that they weren't in this. I'm glad that they also brought back the guy Scott from Not Without My Anus, April Fool's episode of South Park, where Scott is just a dick. That's his caricature. Scott is a dick. If you're for something, Scott's against it and will be a dick about it. But seeing all the different things in here, I love the line, "Make peace with whatever deity you have. Follow the only road. Follow the only road." Oh my gosh. I mean, they're really if we had done this Sunday, I'd have a lot more to talk about for Christmas in Canada, but it's still a really funny episode. Uh, always basically like Cartman saying like if you ruin Christmas for me, man, we're gonna finally go, and then they miss Christmas doing this big mission, and Cartman decides to throw down. Kyle slaps him, and Cartman proceeds to scream and cry bloody murder. It's a really funny episode. Not one of my top ones, but yeah, like Bill's saying here in the chat, it's basically Wizard of Oz. And just a lot of funny little gags here and there. Anytime they do Canada, it's good. But then after we watched that, oh boy, I took notes. I mean, I actually am surprised. Like, I took a full page of notes for this next thing that we're going to talk about, which was 1977's Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. Jim Henson, Paul Williams does the music, and it's been something that people mention it all the time when you mention Muppets and Christmas, and besides Muppet Christmas Carol, this comes up, and I always hear in people's voices like, oh yeah, Emmett Otter. And for some reason, this Muppet lover has never seen it. And the other thing is like, I don't just love Muppets, I love otters. Say it any more creepy? No, I do. I love otters. And so I'm really surprised that this just kind of escaped me. Or maybe it's because it's so boring that I don't remember seeing it. Because that's what Emmett Otter is. Now, when I say boring, I want to put things into context here, right? I want to just be shit all over this thing. The work that they do, the world that they created, what they had to build, all the little sets and all that stuff, and the puppeteering involved, and the fact that the characters are sometimes in boats and rowing, and they actually do manage to immerse you in this tiny little space of this world. And it was, Bill saying here that we watched a 20-minute Christmas special that was 50 minutes long. Yes. Because there's barely any plot, and it's based on a children's novel, and it reads like one too. It feels like one. But they really did, and the thing is the only reason I felt immersed in this was because how slow and boring it was. The beginning of this, and also the Paul Williams songs. Look, I should probably go with my notes here before I go too far off, right? But first, was I tricked into watching another musical was something I asked myself, but I know that I wasn't tricked. When I heard that the option of Emmett Otter was out there, I jumped at the chance. So I can't blame anybody else for this. But it's really, really dull. And at the very beginning of this is just an otter and his mother rowing a boat to the store. And the song is called "The One Bathing Suit That Your Grandma Otter Wore." Okay, now it's a really interesting. Okay, I'll give it up to that song. It's kind of interesting. If you listen to the words, it's so weird. It's so weird. I'm like, Paul, why are you? What does this have to do with? Like, how did you? They say, hey, we're gonna make this movie about a bunch of little animals, and we want you to write some songs about it. And it's, these otters and everybody in this show basically are going to be like super dirt poor, like so poor that it's just like, you don't even know why you bother picking your head up off the pillow every day, that kind of poor. And then he writes these songs that are just really weird. Like what's the other one about having a hole in the wash bucket? But anyway, they spend this really long amount of time going down the river, because it would take a long time. I'll give them that. And they sing this song. It made me think of like when people, before cars, before trains, before everything else, all the things that led up to now, all the things that people did to entertain themselves back then. Like, oh yeah, let's just sing some songs. Like nobody just like is walking down the street with their friend and like, hey man, what? Hey man, you want to sing some songs? Yeah, man, let's sing some songs. We should just do that because we have nothing else. Like it's so like when I think of how people entertain themselves, like while we all love songs, while we all love singing or something like that, when you had no other choice, when your avenues of entertainment were that limited, like oh god, like we think that diseases and things that are bad now, right? Imagine every single thing that bothers you today, and then just think about like not like 60, 70 years ago. Not even that long ago, guys. Like how just now maybe like 80, 90, 100, past anything in the 1800s, early 1900s. Because that's what this felt like. This was set in like basically this like super depression dust bowl era, like very of the times it's trying to be in, even though it's also appears to be in like the times of like that are changing, like because you've got this river bottom gang that's made up of like a bunch of really interesting looking puppets. There's like a rattlesnake in there somewhere and a big bear and everything, and they're like the new wave that's rolling in. There's these rebel thug hooligans that play music that sounds like Black Sabbath. And I started thinking about like what does this like, I don't know if the river bottom gang is a thing in the book, and if they are, did they try to perform like Black Sabbath? But I think one of the things they were trying to do in Emmett Otter was talk about like the kind of changing of the guard in a way of like old and new, like old styles and new styles, and how in the end the new style won over the crowd over this very sweet, innocent, more traditional sounding music that they were listening to, that Emmett and his mom were both singing, and they freaking lost. They lose. Like this whole thing is just boring and depressing and soul crushing, because it's just these people, all they want to do is do something nice for the other one, and the other one like puts themselves into like sells something really valuable, and then the other one like destroys something valuable, to try to get their dreams come true, and then they still in the end they both compete against each other. They both lose to the bullies in the town, and it's just, I even have like so much more written down, but I'm not even like covering like everything that is in it because I kind of don't want to. But it just was really depressing. And then like the day is saved by a guy who's like a judge or whatever, listening to their music, and was like, "Wow, you guys are really good. Why don't you come work for me?" And I'm just basically thinking to myself, yeah, well, that's just a temporary solution. So their lives, I guess, get a little bit better by having a job that pays. They get to live in a place like where it's just a little bit better. But it's just, I guess, also, like, one of the points is that no matter how bad it is, it's important to like keep your head up and not let the bad things drag you down. And you got family, and you got friends, and you got your health, that kind of thing. Because other than that, like I was really trying to just be nice to this thing that I found almost no entertainment in. Not to mention the fact that I like most of the music just didn't grab me because it was not even just of the times. It was just, to me, not very good. Um, but then like I said, I want, like, in context, that these guys that do all this work, that put these things together, that puppeteer and do all this work, it's amazing work. They just used a really boring story. And while I agree, I will say that when I watch the Muppet Show, a lot of my favorite bits are things that have nothing to do with the main characters of the Muppets that we know, like Gonzo, Kermit, Miss Piggy, that kind of thing. When they do something weird and random, that's usually my favorite stuff on the Muppet Show. And so they did something weird and random here for 50 minutes that ran in 1977, and it just, I'm sure that in 1977 there were some people that were like, holy crap, I can't believe this. This is so amazing. Jim Henson just does it again. And then there were probably some people going, this is all really impressive, but boy, is this boring as shit. So as cute as it was, as sweet as it was, as much as it was trying to just be this cute little story about the triumph of the human spirit, it just was so long and boring. And, after the third song, I was no longer watching it anymore. I was just looking at it. That's not what you want to hear. I had a lot more things written down that I just didn't even bother to bring up here, but there is a line, nobody wants to oil a snake anymore these days. Okay, so getting on to, let's talk about Critter Christmas. So Critter Christmas is one of the best episodes of South Park of all time. Because, spoiler alert, we find out that this entire episode is just in the mind of Eric Cartman telling his Christmas story in front of the class. And so as everything gets weirder and weirder and starts, really doesn't, what world are we living in? Like South Park is crazy, but usually there's some sort of, I don't know, rules to it. But this just didn't follow any kind of rules. So when you do find out in the end, what you're seeing is what you're hearing is, and then all gets explained to you, you go, of course it is. But up until that point, it's just one of the strangest, darkest, weirdest things you'll ever see on television, where you have that traditional Christmas special with the talking animals, and it's all cute and yay, we have to get ready for Christmas, right? Yay. And the music in this is brilliant. They talk about we've got the narrator, like the Rankin Bass stuff, and talking about how Christmas needs to be bought in a store. So this is where we're introduced to the animals, and they all have the rabbity, deery, porcupiney, skunky. You know what I'm saying here when I talk like this. So Barry the bear, Chickadee the chickadee. And it's all cute, and they play that song, it's Christmas time, it's once a year. It's just so schmaltzy, and you're like, what the hell am I watching? Is this South Park? It looks like South Park, but what the hell is this? And, people keep saying, one of the people in the chat said, I need to reevaluate my hatred of musicals. And I always keep saying, and it's like nobody gets it in their head, I like funny songs. If the song in a musical will actually make me laugh, then I'll be fine with that moment in that musical. If the entire musical is made up of songs that make me laugh, like everything that Trey Parker and Matt Stone have ever sung just about, I will like that musical. I like funny. I like my musicals. I don't know. Funny. They have to be laugh out loud funny. Because I just love their songs. I mean, the Cannibal the musical, their first thing they ever did has got some of the funniest songs I've ever heard in my life. So the critters are going through their whole spiel and everything, and Stan comes walking up, and it's like the narrator's talking over him, and he's just inundated by these talking animals, and he's just like, they need his help to help with the birth of their Lord and everything. And Stan gets out of there, right? He's like, I can't help you guys. And I love when he walks away, because this episode has a few things that are kind of like Trey Parkerisms, I would call them almost, where it's like, where he says woof, or the over exaggerated kind of noises that Trey sometimes puts in things that I think I find are trademark. almost, and they're really, really funny. But he just walks away from them going, woof, like I gotta walk away from this nonsense. Like this, if I stay any longer with these critters, I'm gonna get sucked into something just awful. And so he walks away, and they they follow him at night. And we find out that they're talking about how they have this immaculate conception every year. Every year, one of the critters has an immaculately conceived infant that they try to give birth to, but the mountain lion that lives on the mountain comes and kills it, and so they can't. Their Lord and Savior is never born. The Son of our Lord, they always call it. And so the mountain lion is doing a service to the universe, basically, and keeping, their saviors dead. But Stan comes back after they've basically they've broken into his home and kind of kindly browbeat him into helping them with their manger, and then going up onto the mountain to get rid of the mountain lion that is killing their savior. Well, he tricks the mountain lion. It falls down off a cliff and dies. And so problem solved, except the mountain lion has a bunch of little baby cubs that all come out with that super cute child voice that you hear. And look, I'm not a fan of kids, but when you hear that voice, you're like, Mommy won't wake up anymore. Like, and this is where you get the ah. So he solves one problem, causes another problem. Where now he's, we got a bunch of little poor mountain lion cubs that are probably going to starve to death without their mom. Well, Stan tells them, hey, look, the mountain lion's dead. And they're like, yeah, that means we can give birth to our Lord. Hail Satan. Which, by the way, everybody, hail Satan. Hail Satan, everybody. How you doing? Hail Satan. He finds out that the woodland critters have been trying to give birth to the Antichrist, and they all have special Satan powers, and they're evil, evil, evil. And they proceed to have a blood orgy where they sacrifice one of their own alive, and then they proceed to have sexual intercourse with each other covered in blood. And I can't believe these are sentences that I'm saying. Well, Stan is gone, but under the pressure from the narrator, who's like, no, like Stan's like, I'm out of this. I'm not doing this. But eventually he's talked into it. And I love this line where he's just like written to say, this really better have a point, man. This really better have a point. And so Kyle ends up caught up in this because they need an unbaptized person to be the host for their Antichrist, and they bring in Kyle, who doesn't know what's going on until it's too late. Kyle's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "It's Critter Christmas, man. It sucks ass." But Santa Claus then shows up. They threaten to eat his flesh, and Santa Claus like kills all of them with like a big ass shotgun. There's only one thing to do. It's satanic creatures. So there's a big massacre. Kyle wants to become the Antichrist, and this is where we find out that it's Cartman's story. And that Santa Claus ends up killing. Santa Claus is going to have to kill you. Santa Claus eventually kills the Antichrist that the little mountain lions were taught abortions, so they give Kyle an abortion. And then Santa Claus kills it with a mallet. He resurrects the mountain lion, and it ends up being the best Christmas ever, except for Kyle, who dies of AIDS 2 days later. And that's just how it ends, and I love it. It's just it is like one of those episodes where they talk about in their commentaries about how, sometimes the greatest episodes come out of nothing. And desperation and not knowing how to what to do with an episode. And so Critter Christmas, man. If you haven't seen it, I know I've talked a lot about it, but like you have to experience it to believe it. Which brings us to our final thing tonight already, which is Jack Frost from 1997. We watched this on a viewing party just about a half an hour ago. Like I said, it precedes the Michael Keaton movie. And what's crazy is, look, this is not a good movie. It's not a good movie, but it's not intended to be. But it kind of is good. This movie is kind of good because it knows what it is, right? First and foremost, this movie knows what it is. And I started thinking about it, and it because it's not your typical. I thought this was going to be a really not taken seriously, kind of silly slasher. But the thing is like, it's a ridiculous concept. This guy is a psychopathic killer, is getting ready to be executed, escapes the execution, but gets blasted with this like experimental like gene research goo, and he becomes like one with snow, water, whatever, and he can take the form of this snow. He takes the form of the snowman because they need I don't know. They didn't have enough money, and they said, "Hey, we got to do something. Make him pick a body of a snowman." So now this guy comes and he's killing people in the town, and that's basically your premise. Except, as stupid as that all could be, it's done like they're like. Part of it just feels like just straight up a comedy. But then there's like an underlying seriousness to everything that makes it feel like you're watching like an anti-X-Files. It feels because first off, it feels like that because it's definitely filmed in Canada. It'd be like that though. How you doing, Brad? But it's like the X-Files if you know anything about the X-Files, the local cops are always like, inept or in over their heads most of the time. They just don't know what to do about a certain problem that's happening. In this, it's more like the cops know more about what's happening than the FBI or whoever that get called in. It's kind of an interesting thing, and there's a little digs almost to the FBI in this, that how like incompetent and shady they're being. One of the agents being called Agent Manners, which I think might have been a shout out to Kim Manners, the longtime director of many, many great X-Files. Known for directing a lot of stuff up in Canada, television-wise. Like even like the beginning of the movie, you've got a kid and a guy talking that have no connection to the movie whatsoever. And they're talking about, tell me a happy, scary story. And this guy proceeds to tell this story of like this awful, awful, awful person who commits awful, awful, awful murders. And the narrator seems to enjoy talking about it to this very innocent sounding voice, until it's basically all the exposition that we need to know about the character of Jack Frost, being this guy who's about to get killed for everything he's done. And then we jump into this movie. One of the other great things about this movie I did like, again, because it's from 1997, is there's also like people that go back to the X-Files in this. The lead actor in this movie is Christopher Allport, who sadly passed in 2008. That sucks, man. That means he's been gone for 12 years. I didn't know that. I really enjoyed seeing him in stuff that I watched a lot. In the 90s. These guys get around, man. Christopher Allport plays the sheriff in this movie. He was in an episode from season 1 called Lazarus of the X-Files, where he played a guy who used to have a thing with Scully. This is interesting. Also, this movie has a character actor from Canada called Rob LaBelle, he plays Agent Stone in this. He's kind of the weirdo scientist in this that you think is from the FBI, but you're not sure of. He played Brad Wilczek in another season 1 episode of the X-Files called Ghost in the Machine. He was also in Watchmen. He played the original Dr. Manhattan before he became Dr. Manhattan, when he was just a scientist. It was his assistant in Watchmen. He's been in a ton of different things. I think he was also on that show Due South about the Canadian Mountie, and I think he was like the buddy. He plays a lot of buddies in things. But that's just, those are the two main actors that I recognize. Of course, Shannon Elizabeth is in this. This I think is just around the time of the first American Pie. Man, 90s Shannon Elizabeth, man, and like up to like 2005 Shannon Elizabeth. Woo! But those early years, like up to like, let's say 95 to 2000. Oh boy, Shannon Elizabeth. Like, look, I don't care. I don't get to be. I don't let myself be shallow too often. Shannon Elizabeth can come get it. But this movie was actually really, really entertaining. I had a really good time with it. It basically, it's a cartoon meets the X-Files, and there's no real rules to it. Looking forward to 2045 Shannon Elizabeth. So Jack Frost comes back as a snowman and just proceeds to like kill people left and right. All the kills are all really good. The gore is in this. There's even snowman gore. Where this guy just proceeds to slowly take out the characters that we've been introduced to. There's all sorts of really interesting shots. This was all filmed really well. I know that Bill in the chat here had mentioned that himself about the shots in this movie. I imagine it's probably due to the fact that these were also guys who worked on the X-Files. I almost guarantee you that a lot of these guys, the guy who worked on this, at least had been on at least one X-File. All I can think of is that really then becomes memorable really is the deaths. You got a decapitation from a sled. So a kid gets his head cut off from a sled and it goes flying through the air. You got another guy who gets like trying to get ready to have sex with Shannon Elizabeth and gets stabbed to death like with like thrown icicles. Shannon Elizabeth herself gets killed. She's in a bathtub and he literally like forms the snowman in the tub and then proceeds to really ridiculously crush her up against the wall, even though you can tell they're just like not even really barely touching. She just kind of dies. The best death. The best death was also one of the saddest deaths because it's like this one little lady she's very nice and she talks like this and she doesn't do anything to anybody. You know, her son has just died. Her son has just died, and she's talking about the Christmas decorations. Her husband goes outside. He proceeds to get an axe handle through the throat. But when he goes in to kill her, and I just felt bad because she didn't, she's like, like a lot of characters that get killed in these movies usually precede their death with behaving like an asshole. She didn't do nothing. There's no reason. So it like that actual death actually feels really rotten. Unfortunately, her death was entertaining as hell though, because she gets her head. First, he like jams an ornament into her mouth and crushes it, and then proceeds to slam her head over and over and over again into a box. I shouldn't be saying it like I'm enjoying it this much, but into a box full of ornaments, and then her whole face is just busted up. Like her whole brain's been just ornaments have been shoved into the back of her skull at this point, and then she's thrown onto the tree and tied there. I was just like, oh my god, like what? Like this movie is bananas. What are some of the other good deaths in here? Oh, and also good lines too. He jumps out. Oh my god, what are you? Well, it ain't fucking Frosty. I'm the world's most pissed off snow cone. Killing with extra straps. There's a line when they almost kill him at the end when they like gonna set fire to the house or whatever, and the guy's like Hope somebody remembered to let the cat out. And he blows the house up. When Jack Frost asks what it feels like to be immortal right before he bites this guy in half, basically, or no, he takes over his body. He tells me, "What's immortality feel like? It feels cold." They find out that antifreeze can kill him, so they fill up a bag of a flatbread, and they jump out and they dump him in there, and all of a sudden the snow basically becomes like a body that they can kill. It's all really ridiculous, but the thing is like I said, it's taken seriously. Like the actors are good for the most part. There is some bad acting in here. It's not the best thing ever, but like this is way better than some of the stuff we've been watching. And it's from 97. I did not think Jack Frost would be anything but a waste of time, but it was a heck of a lot of fun. This is one of those movies that's so bad it's good. And you don't feel bad about laughing at it because you know that the people that were making it, what they were trying to do, and they wanted you to laugh too. This is not supposed to be like some like, oh, super serious thing. But they did want to make it good. And that's what's interesting about things like that. That some of the movies that we've talked about, some of them are way better than movies with better budgets, bigger budgets, had more production because those movies have more to answer for. Those need to be better movies, and they fail. Movies like Surviving Christmas and Assassin 33 AD. Well, not Assassin 33 AD, but like some of the other stuff we've been talking about. But you got movies like Santa Jaws and this that end up being really entertaining and far better than the movies that have bigger budgets that flop. And I just think that like there's not enough of these kind of movies, which makes me I'm not going to see Jack Frost 2, but I'm glad I saw Jack Frost 1. What movie is this? Elf? No, we're talking about Jack Frost. And so that's going to do it. I really don't have anything more to say about it other than it was really, really fun and entertaining. It's on Amazon Prime, so check it out. Tomorrow night we are watching a movie that I have no idea about I've never even seen a trailer for it. It's called Secret Santa. So tomorrow night at 8:00 we're doing the viewing party for Secret Santa. So I'd say somewhere around 9:30 we'll be doing a live review for Secret Santa, and then on Friday it's Batman Returns, baby. We're going to be reviewing Batman Returns Friday night. Probably around 10-ish, a little after 10 Central Standard Time. So again, if you've made it this far, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, all that stuff. Let me guys know what you'd like to see for next year for the holiday movies that we do. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you later. Bye. End broadcast.